Well, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the channel Ruben Ugarte, and he's going to talk to us about an investment idea and investment experience that he has acquired over the years in the self-storage area. And I know a lot of us are always thinking about getting self-storage, but what are the pitfalls? Where we should buy, what we should buy, and none better than Ruben because he and his wife Mary Lou both engineers, by the way. So engineers, they know how to figure out little tricks of the trade. So I look forward to hear your wisdom, Ruben. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Osi, for having me here. It's an honor that you've been interview me today and that I be able to share some of our experiences in the self-storage area that we've had for the past 4 years.
Yeah, no, that's really, I used to always teach that you should always get mini storage because usually it's a real estate play and a cash income play. And if you put in a light bulb, you have a deluxe unit. I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot of repairs. But the interesting thing is that you've been a member of the Real Estate Action Group, our club since 2015, so 10 years. And you've been invested in real estate for many years, and land and in houses and apartment buildings, and then lately in self-storage facilities, which are, the main topic today. And you still own and manage several multifamily buildings and three self-storage facilities, two in Ontario and one in Alberta. So tell me, how did you start in self-storage and why?
Well, basically what we had in Sarnia, we were going in Sarnia since 2016, and we started with apartment buildings with some friends and family investors. And about 2020, I know 2019 actually, the realtor that we were working with there, he said, well, there's a lady that wants to retire and she wants to sell a self-storage close by in a small town called Plimpton, Wyoming, which is
Ah,
in
yeah.
Ontario, is in Ontario and is close to Sarnia. And so I went there, I saw it. We didn't know anything about self-storage in terms of management, but I always knew that there was something in this asset class. So we put together the deal with the same investors on one of the apartment buildings. And so we started, but we had to learn very, very fast. We had to put online systems and at that moment, I mean, just kind of by that chance, COVID hit right when
Oh,
we
yeah.
in March 2020. So we started managing that from here without even being able to travel to Ontario for about 2 months. But we set up all the online systems and move every contract and all of that. So it was pretty fast. So we like it. And after about 6 months, we kind of saw the differences between apartment buildings and self-storage in terms of, well, to begin with, there is no tenancy act. So we don't have to go through the tenancy
Yeah.
branch to evict someone. And we don't, I mean, the expense ratio is lower than an apartment building. Like, for example, those apartment buildings in Sarnia, we run about 55 to 60% expense ratio to
Uh,
gross rent. But in self-storage, we are running between 38 to 42% on these facilities.
and
So
this are mainly taxes and
yeah, and maintenance is less. Management is about the same, but there are some other expenses that, no gas, no electricity, no toilets. So that kind of makes a difference, right? On renovating a unit, like
yeah.
it takes only about maybe $20 to clean a unit and put it back into the website available. So we continue. We like that idea, and then we found another facility that actually was in foreclosure in Eastern Ontario in a township called Champlain. So we thought that was a good project to get in. I mean, it was abandoned literally, but with two good buildings. So I went there, I saw it. So we started, they gave us a vendor take back financing, which was attractive.
Nice.
It was a little bit expensive, but it was attractive. So we started and we put our own money in that one. We don't have investor partners on that project. And but about 1 year later, in about mid 2021, we already had about 85% occupancy out of empty from
Hmm.
from from zero.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
And it went well. So we continue expanding, and now we are in that process. But then the last one was the one in Wainwright. It's a small town 2 hours from Edmonton in Alberta. That one was a little bit mismanaged. We saw that they didn't have any online systems, and so we took on that project, and it's been there since March of last year. And a curious thing, just a curious fact on this facility is that when we started managing, we saw that I mean, it came with a house like a modular home, but they were
Okay.
using for offices. And I said, well, we are not going to rent this building as offices. So I went to the planner in Wainwright. He said, well, can I convert that to short-term rentals? And he said, yeah, you can convert it. It's very easy.
Yeah.
It was about $300 to, on permits to convert it. Then we furnish it, and we started doing Airbnbs again, learning, how to operate Airbnb since February of this year, 2024. So far, we have collected about 21,000 in net income out of that Airbnb, which is part of the self-storage.
Yeah.
So it contributes to the self-storage revenue. So it's
So you got to keep your eyes open to other opportunities, right? That the old owners obviously didn't see. You came in and you saw that. Now also you don't have a BC government telling you you don't like short-term rentals. So that's why
correct.
Alberta is much better to do that. You talk about systems, yeah, put systems in place. What kind of online system? What would that be?
Well, there are a few, maybe three or four software that we license. The one that we use is called Easy Storage, and basically it creates the website so the people can come and rent online. And so we create a website, which normally we call it Extra Storage, and then we add the name of the town. So we have Extra Storage Champlain, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
.com, Extra Storage Wyoming.com.
Hmm.
So the rental basically is 100% online. I mean, maybe once in a while somebody wants to rent in person, but it's all online. People come in, they rent, they put their credit card, and they choose the unit, and then they get instructions on how to enter the facility. Normally,
Is
we
it
give them.
like a push button system or is it?
Yeah, we have actually a realtor logbox where inside
Okay.
the logbox we have a key or a fob. In Alberta, we operate with a gate card fob. So it's all self-serve. So unless they need some help, then they call. We have a call center. And so they call, and then our person on the ground will help them. But it's all self-serve. We direct everyone to the website. We don't rent in person.
Oh, that sounds very smart. So I mean, boy, that's sort of one reason why you would want to invest in self-storage because I know that we have in our action group we have two ladies that run everything in a rental apartment off their phone. Like they open the door on the phone and all of those kind of things. They don't go physically either.
Mm.
So, what are three or four reasons why somebody should invest in self-storage?
Well, one of the advantages of self-storage is that it's actually a retail business with all the advantages of real estate assets like depreciation and appreciation. So you get both benefits as a retail. Now, being a retail is a little bit more heavy operation. It's more move-ins, move-outs, and things like that. But everything is occurring on the website. So we monitor the website every day per se. So that's an advantage. So you can use depreciation as an asset, but it's also a retail business. That's one of the advantages. The other one is the one that, what we talk about implementing it allows to implement a value creation strategy. Now we do it on the apartment buildings, like we increase the rent, we renovate the units, but the self-storage gives us more room to do this type of things, like
Hmm.
putting more cameras, more curb appeal. So all of that attracts more better clients. And the case in Alberta that allows us to put an Airbnb,
Yeah.
that's kind of a kind of very unique, where say, well, it's a value creation that we use that house to for an Airbnb. Um, And the other one is the one that I mentioned before, the lower expense ratio to gross income. So that difference, which is 10 to 15, maybe up to 20%, that basically goes to the bottom line is profit
Yeah,
when you manage well those expenses. I would say those are, I mean, the ones that I think about three that, could be a good idea
a
to
good
invest
reason.
in good
Yeah, well,
reason.
it's always keeping an eye open. I know, like we have members that for a long time they just stand in front of their house and saying, "Okay, what else could I do apart from putting in a suite?" Well, I know we have one member, for instance, he has two suites in the basement, and then he rented the garage separately for 800 a month. You can only do that in Vancouver, right? Where rents are already terrible. But that idea had never really occurred to me that, yeah, just because you're renting my suite doesn't mean that you also get the garage, right? So from
Yeah.
his point of view, it's very logical, and he's proven the point because, he's full. Okay, so we know what maybe is one of the reasons you might want to go into. What are the risks?
Well, I think one of the main risks that we see is not analyzing the demand correctly. And there are ways to do that. There are some official, I would say, feasibility studies that we run, and then we gotta make sure that based on the area that the facility is, and what it is self-storage is very local. Nobody will drive more than 15, 20 minutes, maybe half
Sure.
an hour to go and go to a storage. So it's very local in nature. So we have to be aware of who else is in that radius. It's a radius that could be about 10 to 15 kilometers. So we look at, we kind of withdraw a circle, and then we see all the facilities that are inside that circle. And then we kind of calculate how many square feet they have. And in self-storage is basically the demand is on square footage. It's not by unit. So we had to work on square feet, and then basically on the demand is based on the people, the number of houses. There's some formulas on that because throughout the years, they have estimated that about 10% of the people in an area will use self-storage. So, so
Yeah,
we use,
it's funny. I moved when we moved we had a 5,500 square foot house, and we moved into still a very large 3,000 square foot condo, but there was a lot of furniture we didn't need. So our mover, who's moved us over the years several times, he said, we're moving all these couches and these extra beds and all that into your storage facility. But I tell you, what's going to happen is it's going to sit here for 2 years. Then you're going to call me, and then I'll drop it off all at the dump. He says, I could actually save you a trip. I said, hey, no, 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 no. We might still have use for it, but actually we don't. So a lot of people put stuff into storage and perhaps never take it out. But it's good for
yeah,
you.
yeah, that's how it is. Well, we have some reports with that software. We have several reports, and one of the reports is the length of stay average. And in these three facilities, we have 17 months. That is the
Interesting.
average stay.
Yeah,
Right now, we have people like in Plimpton, Wyoming. We have people that have been there 10 years. So
yeah.
we don't know what they store in, but it's good. They keep paying, right?
Yeah,
But
well, yeah, no, the longer the better.
yeah,
So you analyze that before you buy it, you analyze all of these factors, the population base, the distance to the center, and so on.
yeah.
Anything else you analyze?
Yes, we the other thing that we analyze is that we have to go and not choose the, I would say, the right operation strategy, right? If we're gonna go online, that's another risk. If the person that is buying doesn't kind of know, this systems or implement the system kind of right on taking over, it's not like you're gonna implement it later. It has to be right at
Sure.
closing time. So that's one of them. The other risk that I see mainly, and it's happening in Champlain, is that after a couple of years, you get someone else, and they go and build another facility inside
Okay.
inside the radius. Now that is very difficult to prevent or anything like that, or even forecast, because you don't know what projects are on the pipeline. You can
Yeah.
ask the township. That's another way to kind of find out, but yeah, they did that in Champlain, but it's actually a kind of a flip. Now he's trying to sell it.
Hmm.
So it just kind of makes us I would say, better in customer
Yeah.
service, more competitors. So that's, I would say, those are kind of the main risk. One risk could be financing, because what happened in the banks, they don't look at self-storage the same way as as an apartment building. So they don't go over 65% loan to purchase value, right? So that means that we had to go and raise more capital per se. That it could be a risk, but might not be. It might be an opportunity as well, right? But yeah, I can summarize
No, but
both.
that's a good point. I mean, it's the same. Someone talked recently, and they wanted to buy in a co-op rather than an apartment. It's the same thing. He said, "Well, no, the banks, in fact, probably no banks will touch a co-op or a time limited or a lease apartment, and they certainly will give you less money. They might give you 60%. Maybe it's a credit union. So you have to know these things." Okay, so if you have a successful operation, you talked about you have to have a system, you have to understand your local market, you don't have to be too far away from the center. What else are keys for a successful operation?
Well, I would say the people, choosing the right people. And we have been through that path in the past 4 years. We have changed several, I would say several property management companies and several persons. So, so recently we decided that we are not going to have a company like a property management company. We're going to have a person as a caretaker. And so we kind of work more on that person. And interestingly enough, we have 3 women. In one in each site is a woman, and they do a great job, and they
Yeah,
communicate with Marilu a lot. So that works. So it's a key. Even though it's not a property manager, but it's very important that they know that there is someone on the ground that they can count on by appointment. I mean, it's not. I mean, we don't have it in there full time. But that's a key thing, to turn over the units quickly, overlock those things that
yeah.
happen.
And also they might enjoy maybe a not totally full-time job, but they build a relationship with the tenants, all of those good reasons. By the way, I am fully in support to have women managers. I mean, I was the first general manager of a real estate company in Vancouver a long time ago that hired women as branch managers. I found, generally speaking, they were tougher. You wouldn't think so, but they were tougher on their on their salespeople, and they were more diligent. And when they wanted something, they really went to fight for it. So if you have a good person there, is one of the keys.
Yes. And there is a couple of on the operations side. One thing that is important is to increase the prices every year. And that's, I mean, it might sound a little bit harsh, but what happens is if we don't increase the prices every year, then we kind of keep on lagging, down the road. And again, we don't have a tenancy act, so we can actually increase the prices as much as we want, but we don't do that. We increases the prices on the anniversary date. We don't go on a
Yeah,
full increase. So we choose a group of people on that month, and those people will receive an increase, a note increase. And then we normally, when you're talking about increases in here, you're talking about $4 or $5 increase, but that percentage wise, I mean, it goes actually down to the bottom line.
that
That's
that
key.
is such a big point. Because, even how many people are complaining about the Landlord and Tenant Act in BC, and we can only increase 3%. And then they don't increase the 3%. And if you're in there for 10 years and you just increased what is an allowable rate, which is admittedly too low, but if you had done it with the 3 months notice and everything following the steps, following an act, which you don't have to do in the self-storage, but if you'd done it, you had increased your rent by a substantial amount over time. That is such good advice. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other one important is the marketing part. And the marketing we created right from the beginning in the Google business site and the Google Maps, because almost 80%, maybe more, they found us on online. Is we do advertising locally. We have some newspaper, we have some big signs like on the highway, that kind of thing. But the online marketing is the one that attracts the most
Yeah,
number of customers. And
interesting.
so and the other one on the operation side, which is basically what Marilu does, is to be on top of the payments.
Yeah,
Every day, if the credit card fails, the system has an automatic email that goes, but then somebody has to go and kind of maybe make a phone call, an email, a note.
yeah,
So that's why it's a little bit more active than an apartment building because of this thing. But that actually keeps the default that people not paying rent, very low. I mean, actually, we have very, very low default because people will end up paying. The system is that on day number 6, when they don't pay the rent or the credit card fail or they don't send the e-transfer, we put another lock. So we put
yeah,
another lock on day number 6, and
yeah.
we charge for that. So they are fees for doing that. And in general, now they cannot access the unit. And so we give them another 15 days to pay. So the most that we have had, in just very rare occasions, we go up to 60 days, and then we take possession of the unit. And
Mhm.
then, we normally donate or throw away. We don't go into any auctions or anything like that. We don't want to take the stuff that people has in there. We work with the client as much as we can so they can pay. And then, sometimes we give them a little bit of discount and say, well,
Sure.
you're not able to rent in here. Just come, pay,
Pick it up
pick
and
it
pay
up,
something.
pay
Yeah,
half, pay something, and just give us the unit back
yeah.
because we have waiting list, right, for to rent. So we do that, and they come and they do it.
Well,
They take it. Yeah.
well, it's a way of managing, right? And I know that as a young man, my first apartment building had a 7-suite building in White Rock, and there was a restaurant in it, and I was really always, people were late, and I was always friendly and nice, and they got later and later, and then finally I realized I wanted love. But what I really needed was respect, and I didn't get any respect because I saw them even go to my neighbors to buy their food there when they owed me money in the restaurant. They owed me money. So finally, I said, "Look, this building, the bank owns all of it. I only own the front door, and the
Mhm.
bank doesn't get their money on their day. They get really mad at me, and I'm going to lose this building. So from now on, here are the rules." Now, in those days, maybe they were not a landlord and tenant act, but I was very clear: if you don't pay, and then I was there on the day of the payment. If they didn't pay, I said, "Look, start packing." I wasn't nice anymore. The funny thing was, all of a sudden, I didn't have love, but I had respect, and I got my money on time. You cannot always be just too nice, right? Because sometimes the tenant has a choice: do I pay Aussie, or do I pay Ruben, or do I pay Hydro, or whatever it is comes first? I want to be the first in line. So management of it is so key.
Yes, yes, and that's why we have those, our property caretaker or manager in on the ground, and basically we just tell them, go and put the overlock. Once the overlock is in, the system sends another message, and it says now you are overlocked, and we charge $40 for that. So it goes another fee on top of that. But now they know that they cannot
Can
access
I
the
get in?
Yes. So that's where the process starts.
Yeah,
And you do have some people that, eventually will not pay and we have to take over and all of that, but very minimal, very
yeah.
minimal. I would say it percentage wise is very minimal. Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard all the wonderful things that you're doing. What are some of the mistakes that you've done when purchasing a building?
Okay. These are actually real mistakes that we have done. Uh, and I don't have a value, a dollar value on this, but one of the things is, especially in Wyoming, when we started, I did not have an idea or calculated how much it will cost to expand. We had land to expand, but until I started doing all the process, then I start looking and say, well, now all the engineering fees, all the site plan fees, and then quoting the drainage and the building and the concrete pad. So it was a very, very good learning. It was a good
Yeah,
tool for me. And so when I did it the second time, because in Wyoming we have expanded twice. I mean, two buildings, one in 2021 and in 2022. The second building was a lot easier
Yeah.
because I knew I had the budget, I planned for it. And now we are expanding again in Wyoming. In the next, it will take us a couple of years because we bought the land next to it. So in my model now, I can model because we have software, analyzing a deal is, we have software for that. So now I can model that expansion and how long it will take
Yeah.
to, lease up the units up to 80% occupancy. All of that I can put in the in this modeling, which makes me more confident. And when I go to the bank and I say, well, okay, this is how much it's gonna cost, they can see that there is some calculations behind that,
And
right?
it's logical. Yeah.
Yeah.
And certainly
So
the banks are, they have their very own reasons. They always give you money when you don't need it. And
yeah,
they hold back. But the interesting thing is, it's sort of a hobby horse of mine that we always say you learn from other people's mistakes. I tell you, you don't learn anything from somebody else's mistakes. You do learn from your own mistakes. Like you
yes,
said, the first expansion, wow. The second expansion, you had learned by pain and agony and
yeah.
time and effort and wow, and sort of an epiphany as to what is involved. And no doubt about it, just get into action and do it. No question. Okay, so how can someone start investing in self-storage?
Well, in self-storage, there are, I would say, three ways. I will summarize it in three ways. One is do it like we've been doing it, kind of learning as we go. I mean, there is a lot of learning. I can say that. I want to mention that because in our process, we have hired and we have paid a good amount of money in coaching. And because I always think that, even though, we know certain things, we always need a coach. And so we have a coach. We work with a coach, especially in the project in Champlain, for about, I would say, about 2 years. So we kind of work on that project expansion and site plan and all of that. But now I have a coach in self-storage that is based out of the US. So he's a guy that has about $100 million in self-storage, and now he's getting older and he wants to do coaching. And so I found him, and we work online. I have learned a lot. I mean, a lot on specifically on self-storage. So that's important thing. I mean, learning, but that is called do it yourself, like we've been doing it, right? And then raise capital to get into the projects. That's one way of doing it. I mean, you have to be willing to do all of these things, right? I mean, not only the learning, but the traveling. Like we
Sure.
we gotta go to Ontario and Alberta every couple of months. So there is some traveling that is involved on that.
What
The
about
second
you don't buy in BC?
No, we haven't found anything in BC that works. I mean, everything is so expensive in BC, and the self-storages that they want to sell, I mean, they are listed or something. I do my kind of my brief analysis, and it
Hmm.
it doesn't work. At least not for us. I mean,
Yeah.
it might work for someone that, that has a lot of money, maybe a REIT or something like that, but not for us. So Alberta is much better actually.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
planning if we can find another one in Alberta. That's better. But we have with the expansion projects, we have good projects to go in the next year or so
Hmm.
to do that. And the second one will be a REIT. I mean, there is a couple of self-storage REITs, and I think they go around 6-7% returns. But yeah,
Hmm.
you don't do
Not
anything.
bad.
You just give them their money, and they invest purely in self-storage. Like, I mean, it's not a syndication; it's a fund, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is well, invest with someone that is an expert in self-storage, that they are doing investing like us, right? I always tell us, I say, well, if we do all the work, right, the investors that have been with us for a few years, they are happy in the buildings, and now in the self-storage. Self-storage is performing well. So yeah, that's another way to get into the self-storage, investing, right? Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and certainly anybody that's interested, just below on the subscription, if you listen to us in video, we have Ruben's contact information, his email, and please get in touch with him, and I'm sure he'll be happy to tell you how you could invest with him, or maybe get the name of some other coach or something. I know that he's a very helpful guy in that regard. Now, if you listen to us on the podcast, for now, just simply go to ozbuzz, ozbuzz.ca, send me a note, Ruben Ugarte's contact info, and I'll be happy to send it to you. Ruben, any final thoughts?
Well, I would say that this is a very big industry, and is not to and is has very a lot of opportunities, a lot of future, I would say, even though it's been kind of deemed that is not that sexy as a real estate investment. But it's a $60 billion industry in North America, in the US and
Wow.
Canada. So there are opportunities in there. So if anyone wants to come in, yeah, you can take a look at this as an asset. And it's been a great pleasure, Ozzy, to be here with you, to be on this interview. And yeah, look forward for being more in REAG, and and increasing more the self-storage world with
Well, it's really nice to talk to you. It's always great to talk to an action taker. And REAC, of course, is called the Real Estate Action Group. And you're a prime example of it. And there's nobody like a person that takes the bull by the horn, so to speak, and wrestle it to the ground and makes some mistakes and then comes out the winning side. Thank you so much for doing this. And as I said, his contact information is just um, below the I have a malware ad coming up. Thank you very much, Ruben. You take care.
Thank you, Ozzy. Have a good day. Take care.